Let's make a white chunky blanket. You'll need 8 skeins for this size throw blanket. First, make a slip knot or open knot, which is your first cast on stitch. The loop measures about 2.5 to 3 inches, or finger length. You'll chain on 27 loops. They create our first row of stitches. Gently pull the yarn through, not too tight, but keep them consistent. If your loops are small, your blanket will end up too tight as you knit. At the end of the first row, switch the yarn to the other side, since now you are working right to left. Skip the first top loop. It's the end stitch that will catch on to the next row stitch to make the border. Continue pulling through the stitches. Make sure not to skip. Periodically check to see if the loops are about the same. The last stitch comes from your first cast on, where you started your slip knot. Make your loop and set aside. It will be a stitch for later. You now begin making your pattern. Each end stitch is a back stitch that will look like a braid all around the border. So the pattern is 2 knit stitches or back stitches, 2 purl stitches or front stitches. Continue the pattern. The first and the last 2 stitches are knit stitches. The end stitch, you'll move the yarn through the bottom loop and bring the chain up to the next level. Move the yarn behind the next stitch and continue the pattern. You will notice that the frame of the blanket is now forming. As you run out of yarn, you take the next skein and tie the yarn in a knot, cut the 2 sides off, then continue in your pattern. As the blanket gets bigger, I gently fold over my blanket while I am working. So if you make a mistake with your loops, you can fix it. Make sure your pattern is always 2 knit and 2 purl stitches. Always have enough yarn left in order to cast the blanket off. You'll take 2 stitches and sandwich them together. Pull the working yarn through and you'll have 1 loop and 1 stitch left. Take the next 2 stitches and repeat the process. Make sure your loops cover the next loop. At the last stitch, pull your working yarn through to make a tight knot. Then you'll weave the tail into the blanket and cut off the excess. You can also weave the tail of the beginning slip knot. This blanket measures 45 by 64 inches. I store this in a cotton-lined basket so it doesn't snag the yarn. This throw blanket is fluffy, plush, and oh so cozy. I love these blankets. They are so perfect for gift giving. Let's see you make one now. Happy hand knitting!